Was Andy on the road that day? The Battle of the Beach Creekers amidst the Cousins War continues.
Don't put the word out to him. You say my name again and he'll kill him.
Good morning everyone, my name is Michelle. I hope you're doing well. Welcome to another video. It is Tuesday morning, the 28th, is it? I think, maybe, possibly, of November. So we're talking about the Summer Wells case today, and we are talking about Fred Hill and Andy Bernard. If you've been following Summer's case as closely as I have, and you understand that the people surrounding Summer Wells in the vicinity of her house are pretty much all related. Yes, there are some new people who've moved in recent years, which has upset the locals, but you know, the original Beach Creekers, they're all related in some way, shape or form. Andy Bernard, who used to live at 125 Ben Hill Road, which is directly across from Summer's house, which of course is 110 Ben Hill Road, he was the long-term partner, boyfriend, whatever, of Jodisue Brown. Jodisue has had a lot to say about the Summer Wells case. Then we've got further down Ben Hill Road, 165, 167, and then 209, is it? Or 207? I never remember that number. Anyway, those are the properties that were owned by Fred Hill's family. Fred Hill is the cousin of Andy Bernard. They have common ancestor, Ben Hill, who the road is named after. Fred Hill is Ben Hill's grandson. Andy Bernard is Ben Hill's great-grandson, so it makes them cousins once removed, but they're not close apparently. Both sides have said that, yeah, they knew each other, but they weren't like dead close growing up. Okay, all good. How does any of this relate to Summer Wells? Well, there's been an ongoing, let's say, debate between the two cousins. Was Andy on the road the day that Summer disappeared? What does it matter? It matters if Andy lied. Now, I don't know who's telling the truth. I wasn't there. Neither were you. If you were, well, I hope you've told TBI all you saw. But for a long time now, Fred Hill has been saying that Andy turned up, maybe with a couple of other vehicles, between 3:30 and 3:45. And they went right down to the bottom of the hollow. Fred Hill had to move for them because he was loading up cars to take them to the crusher, the scrappy, in Kingsport. Okay, and he had to move for these vehicles coming through, and he knew it was Andy. That's what Fred Hill has said. It's one of the consistent things that Fred Hill has said. Because one of the problems with Fred Hill is that he's told so many stories. He said things that absolutely cannot be true. Like Rose Bly used to live at 110 and was a prostitute working out of 110. Look, these things that Fred Hill has said cannot possibly be true. But the question then becomes, well, did Fred Hill believe it? So it's his truth. It just doesn't happen to be factually accurate. I don't know. Fred Hill has even told different versions of where he was that day. First of all, he said that around 3:30ish they left. I don't remember the exact time, maybe 3:30ish or something to coincide with Andy coming in. They were loading cars onto a trailer to take them to the Scrappy in Kingsport. But then he's since said he didn't take anything to the Scrappy. He's since said, oh, they went out, they went to the store, they were gone the time that Summer would have disappeared, and then they came back and everything was all in an uproar, like there was cops everywhere. But they didn't go to the Scrappy. The inconsistent stories that Fred Hill has told really do worry me. They make it look like Freddie's hiding something, even if he isn't. The truth is the truth, and it doesn't change. You might remember things that you've forgotten. You might add some stuff. You might say, oh no, was that day or was that a different day? You might be a little bit confused, but Fred Hill is absolutely adamant. So much so that Ziggy, who married Fred Hill back in May of this year, I think it was, has wrote to the TBI, that concerned that they're not taking it seriously that Andy was on the road that day. If he was on the road that day, what does it matter? He can drive up and down that road as many times as he wants. It was a public road. Fred's argument is that it does matter because he lied. So it's the lie that's the problem. He lied to the TBI. He lied to Hawkins County. He's lied to social media. It doesn't matter what he tells social media as long as he told the truth to the TBI. Fred's argument is, why would he lie? Well, this is what Andy had to say about the issue.
I was at work. The TBI, FBI has been to my work and seen me on camera at work all day.
Okay, so, I mean, but you were spotted on that road, bro, at a kind of a tricky time, dude.
And so you're going to take the words of a meth head that's goddamn twacked the fuck out since he shot old boy in the goddamn neck a couple years ago?
Who shot who in the neck?
Well, your confident informant, Fred, said he beat me on the goddamn road.
Oh, Fred was the one that did the shooting?
I mean, how in the goddamn fuck you? I mean, y'all fucking sit on the internet and look shit up.
Jodisue, Andy's then partner, had a lot to say about the timeline. For her timeline to be in any way truthful or accurate, has to have Andy being at work and working late. And this is what she said about the time, the 4:30 to 4:42 time when she heard the scream that she was texting Andy. She worked out the time from the texts.
Somewhere between 4:30 and 4:42, the children and I were sitting there being pretty loud, laughing, carrying on. I mean, and when I say loud, we're pretty loud. However, the cabin was quiet, TV running, no air, no fans. And this scream happens. And what I thought was, okay, well, we heard the car door, right? The one. And even though by this point the woodcutter's been gone for hours, should not have been there, in my head, trying to dismiss this, I was like, okay, so one of Candace's dogs has gotten too close to where the woodcutter was, and they've kicked it. But I knew the sound was wrong for a dog. And I knew it didn't make sense because there'd be no reason there'd be a straggler in there that long. I've heard every noise you can imagine out of those three. And they go down further than Summer, and they do ride their dirt bikes back and forth and things like that. And they go in places that Summer really doesn't. But this wasn't their noises. But that's what hit me, right? That's not the boys, and that's what I said. And it never really occurred to me, Summer. And the reason is because Summer doesn't play down far enough to really hear. You hear sometimes when she's high on the bank, or, you know, one of the boys are picking, or she's picking, or she's, you know, but not a whole lot do you hear Summer. And this was a pretty quick series of events. It was you know, what is that? That's the kids. No, it isn't. Yes, it is. And she gets to the door first, and she goes, I can still hear it. It's one of the kids. And she was like, it's going, you know, it's muffled. Those were her exact words. That day, she was like, I can still hear it.
And then at 6:09, when she had the last communication with Andy before he set off.
At one point near 6, and I believe on the phone at 6:09, I'm going around the top curve roadway to start the descent down. By this point, I'm hearing... Hold on.
Now, he worked in Kingsport, so it's about, 25 minutes, which would put Andy coming in like 25 to 7, 20 to 7, quarter to 7 even, if he stopped off somewhere. He said he stopped off for a drink, I think. And he came in around the same time as Don Wells. Now, Don Wells was working in Jonesboro. He would have set off around 6:25, something like that, when he knew that Summer was missing. And he said he put his foot down and he went full throttle all the way home. Jonesboro was about 45 minutes away, and he arrived as the first cops were showing up.
So what time did you get there? Do you remember?
Well, they say, it's really strange because I thought it was 5:30, but the 911 call says 6:30, 6:26 is when the first call come in. And that could have well be. Sometimes I work till sunset, And I went down the hill by the creek in that little four-wheel drive Subaru. I went straight down there to the creek, and I seen the boys down there, and they know not to travel alone. They was together. And I seen my neighbor walking around, and I knew my heart just sank right there. I just knew it, that somebody took her. Because he just don't go nowhere, but she would never leave from up at the, around the house there. No way.
Yeah. No, I mean, what about the boys? What were they doing when you saw them down there by the shed?
They weren't by the shed. They were, if you look down where the power lines are,
you can see where the tree service has cleared all this out, all the way, both ways for power lines. Okay, all the way up to that house up there.
You go straight down, they were looking, walking around looking for Summer, and I just knew she was gone.
If Andy wasn't at work and Fred Hill saw him, that puts Don's recollection of events out of whack. It also puts Jodisue's recollection of events out of whack. But you might say, well, they're all lying. Ziggy thinks that Andy and Don are in it together, and Summer has been taken because of some drug debt. Now, that's not as wild as it sounds, because apparently the TBI, according to Don, questioned him about drugs and drug debts and why he went to Knoxville and all the rest of it, thinking that Summer's disappearance was something to do with drugs. So it's not as wild as it sounds. But Andy swears down left and right that he was at work on camera, and that the cops know he was at work on camera until he left at 6:09ish. So who's telling the truth? Now, I've always said that maybe Fred, it's his truth, but he's misremembering. And actually, he met Andy on the road on the 14th. Fred is saying now that he didn't go out at all on the 14th. He was asleep all day on the 14th, so it couldn't have been the 14th. The thing that makes me think it was the 14th is that Andy came home early on the 14th because of the Jackie Dobbs situation. This is what Jodisue said about that.
Oh, and you won't believe this. While we're searching for Summer, we go down to the other property. Well, actually, not before, when the weirdo was on our property that bought that piece in the yard that's the crust of the bank, and then was arguing against his own survey that he bought a crust of a bank and a vertical cliff, but nobody provided him with that survey. He was sitting on our property, cut through our lines and stuff, whatever, and he parked himself right in the middle of the first two no trespassing signs, and it had already been told, whatever. Anyway, the cops removed him that night. So we were so worried about this guy and how he came off that we went looking that night all the way into Bayless, then every holler in Beach Creek, making sure he wasn't parked in there. And look, this guy hit me so weird. I was like, So, there's extra there I'll get to in a few months. But, anyway, so we go looking at our other properties, right, Evelyn? And get down there, and the guy who purchased yours has now got a gate up over the county road. Not just back where your all's gate is, but over the fucking county road. And as I guess decided he's just going to try to block it off till he can do it long enough to get adverse possession. So I guess we're two properties in this week.
I've seen his house. It's ugly.
See, take it from the kid. This guy has done.
It's cobalt blue.
No, that's the wrong house.
Oh, wrong
we're
house.
We're talking about the one at Jen Edwards. But either way, this guy's put up a damn gate across the county road and locked us out of our driveway that connects with your house. So I don't know what we're going to do about that, but it's going to be a couple weeks down the road before we figure that out with this other property situation. This guy's getting ready to start fighting us over like an idiot and lose. So anyway, just thought you'd enjoy that hilarity. It didn't matter. We climbed his fences and went over and got to her stuff anyway and searched for Summer and did what we needed to do so he can bite me. And I hope he enjoys that on camera.
So Andy came home early to deal with Jackie Dobbs, and then they chased him off. It makes sense that Fred saw Andy on the 14th. But he swears down left and right that he didn't. Now, is Fred going to come along at a later date and change his story? Look, there's things that make me suspicious of Andy. Jodisue, she says some horrible things that are really incriminating, and then she walks them back.
And I guarantee, honestly, when Summer disappeared, that's the reason he got so fucking crazy. And more things about the past few days. It's probably because when the Fed showed up, especially at work, he'd been lying to me because that day she disappeared, he was supposed to be running late, right? Working over. Guarantee he wasn't. So he knew, tick, 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 time was coming. Cops knew he wasn't, whatever. And he was next door, and truth coming. I mean, all kinds of things precipitated his shit, but I promise you for months. And what's weird is, like, he was abusing me that psychotically during the day, but then he was even acting weird for me. Like, at night, for those last few nights, it was, will you hold me? And a tone I'd never really heard before. I wanted me to hold him after fucking doing me that way every day. And a weird, like, baby tone. Like, man, this ain't done. If his fucking system thinks this is done, you let me know. I've been telling you. I've been fucking telling you. Y'all go over there and ask why exactly it is he was selling drugs to the children at 110. Why he was potentially causing little girls over there to be sedated and to be touched with the shit he was selling over there. Go ask. Because I have fucking questions. Not standing in front of him anymore.
This is the problem with Jodisue's testimony. She walks them back. Nobody can tell a consistent story. That concerns me. We don't even know what time Summer actually went missing, because Candice said, oh, she was looking for Summer at the time of the scream, and that's why she didn't hear it. Well, if the scream was at 4:30 to 4:42, Summer was missing almost 2 hours before they called the cops.
So whoever took her had to actually come up into the yard and take her. And I don't understand, because, like, my neighbor heard her scream, but I didn't hear her scream because I was in the house with the boys trying to find her. And I guess when my neighbor heard her scream, I was actually in the house and the TV was going, so I didn't even hear the scream.
Everybody, it's every single person who's spoken out on social media in some way, shape or form either doesn't make sense, is walking stuff back, is inconsistent. All of it is inconsistent. We don't even know what time Summer Wells went missing. I believe, personally, just my personal opinion, is that Candice doesn't know what time Summer went missing. Candice might have a better idea than what she's making out on social media. We don't know. But certainly, if Fred Hill is remembering accurately, and I'm really not sure he is, then Andy was there. And what was Andy doing there? Not that I believe he was. I do think, it's my personal opinion, that Fred is mistaken. No, Ziggy and Fred say that there's cameras on Ben Hill Road, so they know exactly who came in and out of the holler that day. The TBI might know absolutely what the truth is. They're just not telling us, because why should they? So we continue to have these little arguments and squabbles and... I know. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.